Are you struggling to understand your business numbers? Are you wanting to take your business to the next level? Well, each week here on the Local Small Business Coach podcast, we dive into your business to help you not only understand the business numbers that matter, but we will discuss how to use them to increase your profits. Hi, I'm Tammy, and I'm on a mission to help our badass local business owners take their business to the next level. So if you're a badass or a badass in the making, let's get this party started. Hey, badass business owners, welcome back to the show. It is Thursday. It is Know Your Numbers. And today I want to talk about something that will kill your numbers. And it also will kill your spirit. And we don't want to be killing either one of them. And that is debt. Let's talk about debt for a moment when it comes to your business. Well, first off, we need to look at debt in two ways. We have personal debt and we have business debt. Now, personal debt is something that a lot of us are used to, right? And I'll bet you if I ask you, are you debt-free in life right now? There's a small portion of you that are debt-free, but there's also a big chunk of you out there that are have debt. You have debt for you're paying for your house. For example, if you own your house, you're going to have debt. If you have credit cards, you're going to have debt. If you have student loans, if you have a vehicle that you pay a loan on, you've got debt. And let's face it, the biggest motivator, we talked about this on the last episode, the biggest motivator we have for going to work and doing this is because we need to pay off debt, right? And what's interesting is, can you imagine what life would be like if you got up every day and you went to work not to pay off debt, but because of everything else that money allows you to do for your family and for yourself, and fun and pleasure and travel and whatever it is, tinker, hobbies, playing poker in my case, whatever it might be for you. And the problem is it's that debt that tends to win out every single time. And then when we do our business, then you pile on business debt. It just makes it that much more difficult because now you're worrying about your personal debt and you're worrying about your business debt. And for most of you, whether you know it or not, your business debt just doesn't go away. If you were to fold up your business tomorrow, for the vast majority of you, you have personal guarantees, which means the business can fold, but you are still on the hook for that debt. So it is still a very personal thing. So it might be called business debt, but for the vast majority of you, it is still personal debt because you have to pay it if your business goes out. For example, when I had my basket and when I left, I had, for the most part, paid off everything, but I had this credit card that was still outstanding. Well, guess what? That credit card for a machine that I didn't even want in my business, but I was forced to have. There's no hard feelings there, is there? You don't feel any kind of sarcasm in my voice. But anyways, I had this credit card that had debt on it. Well, guess what? That didn't go away just because I closed the business. I still owed that debt. So it is a personal debt. Now, I will also tell you that I understand when you have tons of personal debt, but I can also let you know from personal experience what it feels like to be under the weight of all of that debt. For years and years and years, I tried to be as debt-free as possible. I did have a lot of credit cards, and then I started doing that whole Dave Ramsey thing. And before I retired from my Home Depot life, I actually started paying things off. I actually paid off credit cards. I got them down to zero. I made the mistake of closing them because that killed my credit score, but whatever. But then when the business started struggling, guess what happened? I started to go up in personal debt in order to survive because all of the money from the business was paying for the business. It was, we go back and we go sales minus cost of goods minus expenses equals your profits. Well, when the business was not making the profits it needed to, which meant that I, as the owner, was not making the money I needed to support myself, my family, then guess what happens? I personally started to go further in debt in order to survive. So it's this vicious cycle that kind of plays together, and it might sound familiar to some of you guys, where maybe you're not in a lot of business debt per se, but your personal debt seems to be going up as you run your business. And that's part of the reason why, because if you can't get out of your business the money you need, then you have to survive from a personal standpoint. You're still going to pay the rent. You're still going to put food on the table. You're still going to pay the electric bill.
And what's going to happen is you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're moving a shell game. You're moving money around. And it's very difficult. So it's really important that your business and your personal stay separate, and that they are two different accounts, and that you do the traditional owner's draw, move it over or pay yourself to go over to your account. But what you can see is if the business, and the reason that I'm talking about it is if the business is not creating enough of an income, enough of a profit, it means that your personal debt is going up. And when your personal debt goes up, guess what? You start making different decisions. Because here's the problem with debt is it hangs over our head and we know we've got to pay it. Because if you don't pay it, you have to make the tough decision of who's not going to get paid, and I'm going to trash my credit, and I'm going to have debt collectors calling me, and I'm going to have this and I'm going to have that. And that's not necessarily what you want as well. But what happens is, and I know this from experience, when we are in debt, what happens is we take jobs that we probably shouldn't. We know we're not going to make the money that we should, but it's going to bring in some kind of income. So we chase things that we shouldn't. The other thing is we put up with people that we shouldn't for much longer than we ever should. That's a mouthful. But for example, you might have a customer who's a good customer as far as from a jobs that they create for you, sales that they generate, but they're toxic. And they're just negative, and they always want things for free. They don't appreciate what it is, and they're just pulling at you. And you're afraid to let them go because you need the income that they produce. Because why? You have this debt, whether it's business debt or personal debt that you have to pay. And I will tell you that once you become more and more debt free, and you free up that cash, you're able to make different decisions regarding people that are toxic that you are helping in your business, or you don't have to chase every single job. So for example, you also see it in where people will travel large amounts of mileage to take on a job. So let's just say that normally you're trying to work within your 5-mile radius, which is what I always recommend, but you're taking these jobs that are 20, 25 miles away because you need the money, you need the cash, you need the sales because you got the bills. And you never would have taken those jobs if it wasn't for the fact that you had this debt that needed to be paid. And I really want to start working on our focus of how do we become debt-free business owners. And not only should your business be debt-free, but how can you continue to work on getting your personal life not as debt-free. And I'll share something for you, because I can guarantee you that no matter how much in debt you feel you are today, I'll bet you I win. And I'm going to tell you why. When I closed up my business at the height of my debtness, okay, I owed over $2 million. Okay, I owed over $2 million to people. Now, part of it was business, but not much, because I pretty much bought my business debt-free. But what happened was I also was, I had rentals. I was in real estate. So I wasn't a real estate agent at the time, but I had bought all these rentals, and all kinds of things came together in 2008, which is when the market crashed. So here I was retired, but I was going to live off my rentals. But what happened? The crash happened. My rentals tanked. I mean, I had some houses that went from about $180,000 of value all the way down to 25. Yes, you heard that right. 180 all the way down to 25. Oh, by the way, I had debt. I had loans on them, which didn't look bad before the market crashed, right? Because my mortgages were only like 70, 80,000. They were worth 180,000. But when it dropped down to 25, all of a sudden that $75,000, $80,000 mortgage is a heck of a debt. So I had a bunch of that. Then I had some personal debt. Then I went into what I was telling you earlier. The business isn't creating enough money, so I go further in debt. All those credit cards I had paid off that I mentioned earlier, I started living off of them. So my debt continued to go up on a personal side. So through time, everything had just kept building. And that weight of that had me making different decisions. Ultimately, I finally got smart and I closed the business, because it didn't matter what I did. If my town had shrunk in half and my expenses were continuing to go up to run the business, I had to make that tough business decision. So I switched careers. I still stayed an entrepreneur, self-employed. When I became into real estate, And I got focused, and I got really focused on how was I going to get out of this debt. Now, trust me, I have not earned $2 million. That's not how I was getting out of that debt. I had to start selling all of that stuff, and I had to start getting rid of it. As the market decided to change, I realized that it wasn't healthy for me to carry this debt because it was debt that was hanging over my head every single month. I had to try to come up with enough money to pay all of these different debts. And if a tenant didn't pay the money, guess who had to pay it? I did. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So I just started selling off things and I started paying off stuff. And I've been on a mission for myself to just get this down. And you know what? I'm proud to say that as of today, I've got that down so much. I think it's like 300 now, from that 2 million all the way down to 300. And guess what? That has to do with houses. Those are just some mortgages that are outstanding. And I've got one credit card that's for the most part almost paid off, and it'll be my last revolving kind of debt. And I don't tell you this to impress you. That's not what I'm trying to tell you. What I'm telling you is I've walked in your shoes as far as debt, and I've been swimming under that debt. And I can tell you from a business owner standpoint, and I see this all the time with business owners that I work with, that the decisions that they make are based off of the debt instead of what's the best business decision for them to make. Okay. I sat down with some folks just the other day, and here they are. They're doing great in their business, but from a personal standpoint, they've got no money. And the problem is they keep having these expenses come up, whether it's from the business and personal, and they can't seem to get ahead. And it has to do, that debt just keeps hanging out there and hanging out there. And here's the thing. Once we start clearing up the debt and getting rid of the debt, guess what? It frees up that cash, and that cash can now be used for fun things for a family, things for people to do, for travel, to take some time off. If you want to take a week off, you can take a week off. You get to make so many different decisions when that debt is not hanging over your head. And I think that there's some of you guys that are out there that understand exactly what I'm talking about, because if it wasn't for the debt that you have, you wouldn't work as hard, you wouldn't work as often, you would make different decisions, you wouldn't chase all the sales all over under the sun, but it's because you start off in a hole every single month. That's what debt is. Debt is telling you that if you add up everything that you owe, it's telling you that at minimum, you have to create enough profit in your business to cover the debt that you start the month with. And if you start the month with $5,000 worth of debt or $10,000 worth of debt, that's kind of where I was at one point. I needed to figure out, how am I going to create this money? That's what happens, is you have to chase everything under the sun to be able to just break even. And I don't want you guys breaking even. I want you guys flourishing and killing it and making a wonderful living. And part of it is we've got to have part of our plan include how not to have debt, how to pay off the debt, and how to have those plans. Now you can follow, I do recommend Dave Ramsey. I think he's great for some people. Do you have to do it 100% like him? You know what? We can have those debates all day long. I'm one of those victims. If you ever listen to Dave, he talks about people who do Dave Light, and you can't do Dave Light. No, here's the thing. You can do whatever version works for you. His version works fantastic for thousands and thousands of people, and it probably works well for you. You know what? All I care about is you start making progress to paying off the debt. Is it easier to start with the baby guys first? Absolutely. Chalk up those wins. I will tell you, when I was getting out of debt, one of my favorite things to do was to write off and finally pay off somebody and go, whoo, one more out the door, because they weren't coming back. And it does make you feel really good as you start doing all of that stuff. And you know what? I've had columns in my little spreadsheet. I have columns for my personal debt. I had columns for business debt. And you know what? My last old one, that credit card I was telling you about, the day I paid that thing off, oh my gosh, it was like finally the end of that era that I owed that business debt, and I no longer had that business debt on me. And I've run my current business without any debt, both my businesses, my coaching business and my real estate business. I do them debt free. And like I said, I'm working towards the whole personal debt free. And this year I'll be completely debt free, other than some mortgages on some the houses. But it changes, it lightens you up, it makes you feel better. And some of you know what I'm talking about because you've been able to get that way. listen, folks, you've got to understand some of the most successful business owners that you see out there have no debt. Okay. They build their business to a certain point. They have those retained earnings and they purchase the next piece of equipment. They don't go out and buy something just because they want to buy it. They weigh it out and they say, this is how much business I need to do to be able to pay for this. And then they pay for it and they grow their business. And if they do go into debt, it's with a plan to be done and out within 6 months for that thing to pay for itself, because the goal is to stay as debt-free as possible. And I know that may seem hard, especially for those of you guys that have vehicles, but you absolutely can do it. And if you know you've got some poor vehicles that you're using or you need more, you've got to start socking away that money to make that leap. So here's the thing. Maybe you can't get maybe you need, I'm just going to make up a number. Let's just say you need $10,000 to get this different van or whatever the case may be. Even if you just start socking up and next thing you know that you've got maybe $5,000, that is halfway through, and that's a lot less debt that you have to take on in order when the time comes for you to be able to buy that van or whatever, that used van, by the way, whatever the case may be. My main thing that I wanted to do was part of your calculations and part of knowing your numbers is understanding your debt and how much debt you have. You can't be blind to your debt. I'll ask people, how much debt do they have? How much debt do they have in the business? And they don't know. And they look at me and it's crickets going on. Of all the numbers that you need to know, your debt is also one of those numbers you need to know. You need to know at all times how much money that you owe people. And I'll give you bonus points if you know how much debt you have personally and in the business, because ultimately they do go hand in hand, because you're going to make decisions based off of your personal debt and your business debt. We can sit there and we can say that it's only going to be based off of our business debt, but that's not true. And we know it. We get up every single day to go out there and kill it and make a living to pay our personal debt. So you need to understand both of those numbers. They need to be separate. They shouldn't be commingled, but you need to know both of those numbers, because those are the things that you are tackling, because it's going to help you make better business decisions, and you're not going to be in a panic at all times, and you're not going to be feeling you have to take every job under the sun or deal with every bad customer just because you have that debt. So debt makes a huge difference. So I know I'm rattling, so it's time for me to go ahead and get out of here, but I just wanted to make sure that one, an inspiration for those of you that feel like you can't get out of the debt, you absolutely can. That feeling in that pit that you're never going to get out of, I completely get it. I felt it. I've lived it. There were times when I thought, there's no way. How do you get out of $2 million worth of debt? It's one thing at a time. It's chipping one way at a time. I had to make some tough decisions that I didn't want to make, but I had to make because it was the right thing to do. I'm in the process of getting rid of one more thing right now that is part of the debt. And once again, it was a hard decision because there's some positives to it. But at the end of the day, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to feel so free. This is one less thing I have to worry about. And it's a wonderful thing. Same thing within your business. The people that I've been talking to recently that are weighing in under that debt, let's get that off of your shoulders. You're going to make better decisions. You're going to make, it's just going to open up your opportunities with what it is that you can do for your business when you're not trying to chase that next dollar to pay somebody that you owe. So let's work on all of us having debt-free businesses and taking that the next level and making sure that we try to live debt-free lives as much as possible. Let's stop giving our money to Visa, to American Express, to all of these different people that want a piece of our money. The only debt that you should have is for your home, and then you should work on getting those down. But honestly, some of you guys can't buy, speaking of homes, there's so many of you that cannot purchase your own home right now because of all the debt that you have. Because you've carried so much debt for your business, and personally, you can't even buy your home. You're going into other people's homes on a regular basis, and yet you rent. And I'm not knocking you for renting. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is, I also know there's quite a few of you that don't want to rent. You want to own your own home as well. And you can do that, but we got to work on that debt. All right. I'm rattling. Time to go. But I'm in it. I'm your partner. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you achieve all those goals and those things. And I'm telling you, I'm also here to tell you, you can do it. It is a very slow process in some cases. Sometimes it can go fast. You never know. Depends what kind of cash you're throwing off from your business. And sometimes you just chip away, and you eventually will get there. Mine has been chipping away, and I'm getting there. So I get it. And guess what? Every single one of you guys can do it. And, if you want to vent, you always know you can reach out to me at Tammy@localsmallbusinesscoach.com. TAMMY @localsmallbusinesscoach.com. Be glad to hear your story, help give you some inspiration, whatever you need. But let's do this. All right. So part of knowing your numbers, I want you to know your debt. I want you to know your business debt. I want you to know your personal debt. And I want you to start chipping away at that stuff so we can make your load a lot lighter. So that way you can have more pep in your step and you can start those sales minus cost of goods, minus expenses equal tons of profit, because that profit is going towards fun stuff, growing, changing your life, and not just to somebody that you owe money to. All right. With that, I am out of here. I'll talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, before you go, if you're looking to learn more about your business numbers, then check out the Know Your Business Numbers course, where we take a deeper dive into the key numbers, the calculations, the reports that will help you take your business to the next level. My mission is to help everyone love their business numbers. Yes, even including those of you that hate math. So much profit is hidden inside of your business numbers, and I want you to create some awesome profits. So check out the link in the show notes or head on over to the knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. Once again, knowyourbusinessnumberscourse.com. Come join me. Let's go ahead and work on building your profits.